Okay, problem reads, Lex is twice as far from the finish line as he is from the start of an 18-mile race. How far has he run? So let's kind of diagram how we would go about solving one like this. So it's always good to read the problem. Sometimes students come to me and they have problems with the word problem and say, I don't know how to do this one. Well, have you read it? Well, not really. So they haven't really read the problem. And you may have to read it through a couple times to get a sense for what they're asking for. Okay? So Lex is twice as far from the finish line as he is from the start of an 18-mile race. How far has he run? It's helpful when you look at these word problems to identify given information. If it's written down for you, you can certainly circle them. If it's on the computer, I don't recommend circling stuff like that. But if it's written down, we can kind of begin to identify what's given here. Let's see, twice as far. Okay, so that's something I need to know from the finish line. And 18-mile race, how far has he run? So that's what we're looking for. How far has he run? It's helpful many times to draw a picture of these. So I'm going to draw a picture. Okay, so we'll call that the start and that the finish. And Lex is twice as far from the finish line. So if he's twice as far from the finish line, it means he's closer to the start. So we'll just, somewhere around in there. It doesn't have to be perfect at all. We're just kind of drawing a sketch. We wouldn't want to put it closer to here because our final answer, when we get it, we want it to make sense, right? And so here's Lex. There he is. And he's running away. What else do we know about this? He's 18 miles from the finish line, right? So we can label this 18. Sorry, the whole race is 18 miles, not 18 miles from the finish line. Okay, so that's what we're given. Well, actually, there's one more. He's twice as far from the finish line as he is from the start. So do we know how far he is from the start? We don't, do we? So we can label that. Some unknown, we'll call it x. So this distance from the start to where he is now is x. That's our unknown, right? We don't know what it is. And we know he's twice as far from the finish line as he is from the start. So if that's x, twice as far, what does this have to be? So if this were 3, what would this have to be? 3 times 2, 6. So it's 2x. Okay? Now you could have said this was x. If you said this was x, this would have to be half x, right? Twice as far. That means that would be half x. You get the same answer in the end. Okay. So once we write that down, now we need to somehow relate all of these quantities together. In an algebra class, this will often come in the form of an equation. Not always, but often it will. So how can we relate x, 2x, and 18? What do we know about x, 2x, and 18? Well, if we just look at that, this distance plus this distance needs to give us 18, right? So that first distance is x plus 2x equals 18. And then we just solve this equation. So x plus 2x is 18. This is going to give us 1x plus 2x is 3x equals 18. And then what do we do to solve for x? Good. I divide both sides by 3. Those 3's cancel out. And what am I left with at the end? 18 divided by 3 is 6. Now before, in earlier lessons, we were just given this equation to solve, and that was our answer. But now we need to somehow connect this to our problem, our application problem. I mean, this may not even be the right answer, right? We just found what x is. What are we looking for? How far has he run? So in fact, this time we were actually looking for this. We were looking for this distance here of x. In this case, we're looking at 6 miles. So our answer is 6 miles. So we want to include units on these almost always when we have the application problems. What if the question had asked, how far does he have left to go? Well, we do 2 times x, right? 2 times 6. And this would be 12. It didn't ask for that, but it certainly could have. Okay. So at the very end, make sure when you get your answer that it sort of makes sense within the context. If you had gotten something bigger than 18, we know we're wrong, right? So look at your final answer and make sure it makes sense in the context. Make sure you put units on it.